Hey y'all, I hope you're doing well today. So in today's message, we're going to be taking a look at what's called the drama triangle. And I'm going to put a link in the description for you all. And we're going to be looking at, I found a website that actually shows the drama triangle with the healthy alternative. And so it's like flipping the triangle, which is pointing downward, which I apparently can't do. And then it shows the healthy alternative right on top of that. So I think it's kind of cool because together it makes a diamond, right? So it just kind of makes me think of the hero's journey, how, you know, it's a process of bringing unhealthy elements of our unconsciousness to the light, right? To refine ourselves, which healthy people strive to do, right? Those of us who want to learn and grow, that's a good thing. That's a healthy thing. And then you have people that are stuck in a loop. They're always going to be focused on the negative. And so definitely a big difference. And so what we're going to do today is take a closer look at that drama triangle. And we're going to look at it from the positive lens. We're going to spend a little bit of time on the negative just to process and understand. And then we're going to take a look at the healthy alternatives and just have a little discussion about it. So I hope that you enjoy the content today, and I hope that you're having a good day so far. So, all right, essentially what we're doing today is taking a closer look at the human mind, right? The mind of humanity. Individuals specifically, right? Not as a collective. So in doing so, we're going to help detangle some conditioning and just kind of switch gears and put it over to the positive, right? Consciously, intentionally. And so that the hope here in looking at this drama triangle is that ideally it'll help us to be equipped to be able to identify, to see, to be able to recognize toxicity, both when we're looking in our past, in hindsight, and also in our present moment, right? Current situations, or even in the future as we come across new associations or we become a part of a new group or whatever it is. Hopefully having this knowledge of the drama triangle will help us to identify toxicity quicker, right? And be able to just exit as fast as possible, ideally, right? So, and on that note, I want to say when we're talking about as possible, I just want you to always keep in mind that limitations a lot of times are actually self-imposed, and a lot of times there is a solution if we just look closer. It's almost like our conditioning. This has been like a big aha for me, okay? So I want to share with you all. It's almost like our conditioning can affect us on this sub or unconscious level to where we are, the webs of limitations that we get caught in actually, and it's all unconscious, they prevent us from seeing just an obvious answer or an obvious solution sometimes. Like, that's what happens when we just continually subject ourselves to a negative environment, a victim mentality environment. And what we're going to find in looking at this drama triangle is that, you know, I feel like sometimes these qualities, there's three points on the triangle. There's the victim, the rescuer, and the persecutor, okay? So I feel like that these roles can be 3 different people. They could be 2 different people, and the roles switch between the 2 people. And I actually think that they can also all be representative or like personifications. I think that's the right term. It sounds weird coming out, but I'm pretty sure that's how you say it, right? It's like when aspects of one person's psyche are personified. I think that can apply here as well. And so I just want to encourage you to be able to exercise your mind here a little bit, and to be able to see how these roles can apply in a lot of different situations, because if we broaden our scope of awareness in that way, it'll just serve to protect us better than if we didn't. You see what I'm saying? I really have enjoyed going through these books, specifically Women Who Run with the Wolves, because it taught me about how characters in these myths and stories are often qualities of a person's psyche or aspects of the human mind that are personified. It's just an avenue to be able to understand the workings of our mind. And so I meant to write it down and I forgot. I saw this this sign earlier when I was out driving, and it said it wasn't "to thine own self be true," which that's a really popular one, but I think it said "above all else." Maybe that was it. "Above all else, to thine own self be true." And it's like, yeah, yes, absolutely. That takes on a totally deeper level of meaning after you've gone through sabotaging yourself because you feel like you're playing this rescuer role to someone who is a victim, right? And this person who, let's just talk like externally for a minute, okay? Like there's this person out here somewhere, hypothetically, who is always in a victim mindset, right? Like a poor me mindset. They may be that way unconsciously, or they could be that way consciously, on purpose, intentionally, for the intention, for the reasons of manipulating others to fill that rescuer role. You see what I'm saying? So that's what I'm talking about. I encourage you to just be able to see how these mechanics, these roles, can be played either unconsciously or consciously. And that's where we're talking about manipulators, right? Con artists. So this particular site I found that had the alternative, the healthy triangle on top that created the diamond shape, which I thought was cool. Because, you know, diamonds have to go through a process, right, to be refined. And so do we when we're trying to learn and grow and become as healthy and fruitful as possible for ourselves and for those we love, right? Our communities and everything else. So this site detailed out all of these roles very simply, but very clear, and I loved it. So they defined the victim as the poor me mindset. So it's when a person feels powerless. And if you, for example, are a child in a toxic household, you really are powerless. You know, you don't even have the capability to get yourself out of a bad situation a lot of times. So this can be a literal thing, right? People can be powerless depending on their circumstances. The other role is the persecutor, which is the one who dominates, blames, and tears down. So a lot of times this is like a controlling person, the dominating family member or whoever it is. It can even be within your own mind as the critical voice, sometimes described as a critical voice or a harsh inner parent. So there's just so many ways, again, this can manifest, but it's essentially the one who is intimidating, typically the most, has to be the center of attention because they're the loudest or the most scary. And so I just want you to maybe journal on this if you have interest, and just kind of think about all the different ways this role, whether in another person or within yourself, or someone you've identified as toxic in your life, how all did this manifest, this role? You know, someone who's dominating and blames and tears people down, right? That's called the persecutor. And then you have the rescuer. This is the one who says, instead of the victim saying, poor me, the rescuer says, poor you, poor you. They're the one who tries to relieve everybody's pain, right? And what was interesting, the site describes this role as this person being fearful of not being needed. And I'm not super familiar with the concept of codependency. I have ordered some books on it, and I've spent a little bit of time on it. I've even joined like an online discussion one time just to kind of try to get my bearings on the concept and what it means. But I think it's similar to, or I think it may have even started, this term may have even started as a thing with relation to children who have alcoholic parents, because then the parents aren't capable, and they're in a state, being, you know, drunk, they're essentially in a state where they're not capable of stepping up and doing what they need to do. So then that role falls back on the child to be the one to rescue the parent. And this can also look like a child whose parent is emotionally dysregulated, and the child feels like they have to just put off what it's like to just enjoy yourself and be a kid and have fun and not have to think about hard things, right? Instead, they may have to focus on their parent, because see, a child is subconsciously focused, right, intuitively, innately on survival. And survival for a child means recognizing they're a child and that they have to depend on their parent. And if their parent's not healthy, then their number one focus is going to be on that parent. So right there, a child can be conditioned to focus externally, right? Making sure the parent's stable, making sure whether it's emotionally or stable mentally, or with any kind of addictions or whatever it is, the child is essentially feeling that rescuer role, which is really sad. But you can see how that would set a person up their whole life to be a people pleaser, right? Just not even really understanding that they're focused externally. So, and a lot of times these people can be so focused externally on others that they neglect themselves, and it's evident to everyone else, but it's not evident to them because they're paying so little attention to their own needs. It's really sad. And I actually had a friend who is a very good friend, and she brought some things to my attention when I was at a bad place where I was not aware of some things, and she made me realize I need to start spending some more time on me and taking care of myself. And so I feel like this kind of stuff, experience in one way or another with these personifications of qualities, right? They can affect all of us in one way or another at some point in our life. So I just think this is really good information to spend a little bit of time on purpose, to really understand. And then going forward, it's only going to help us by serving as just part of our alarm system. Our alarm bells going off, right? Understanding the human mind. That's essentially what we're doing. So, all right. I also want to say this. If a person is if a person is conscious, let's put it this way, right? They're a con artist. They're a manipulator on purpose. They know what they're doing. They're taking advantage of, they're abusing and using others. A lot of times they're going to fake these roles. They're going to fake like they're a victim. And what they'll do is, if that's working for them, great. If it's not working, they're going to switch gears and go over here, and now they're going to be the persecutor. So you can see, maybe you can identify this within your own experiences in life. Like, oh my gosh, this is making sense. Like, this person would kind of change from being intimidating, even if it's body language. They may kind of try to come up on you like physically, like just their presence being intimidating to you. It doesn't always have to be words. So I encourage you to look out for, body language too. But these people who manipulate, they live to manipulate. They're going to switch gears and be intimidating and loud and fearful. Intimidating to make you fearful. They're going to be dominating in all these ways, even the space. Even if you're trying to come through a doorway, they're going to just stomp through and almost knock you down. It can come off like that even. And then it can be verbal. They can put you down verbally. They can just kind of laugh at you, all these different ways, right? Just expand what this could look like. But manipulators, I feel like, just switch back and forth between the victim and the persecutor role. A rescuer, a lot of times is really the victim. You see what I'm saying? So just kind of work with these concepts and see what you can come up with. So the cool thing is, the positive alternatives that this site presented was that the victim becomes the creator, which means I can do it. I can do it, right? I can create instead of being the victim. I have the power to create. my circumstances to a degree, right? There are true limitations, but I would say a lot of times, if not most times, it's just like trying to find the right direction to go in and to dissolve those limitations that weren't truly limitations. It's kind of like that's where you get to be really creative here, right? And then you have the rescuer role becomes the coach, which is not I can do it, but how will you do it? And then you have the challenger, which is the opposite of the persecutor, which is you can do it, right? So the victim turns into the creator, I can do it. The persecutor turns into the challenger, which is you can do it. And the rescuer turns into the coach. How will you do it? You see what I'm saying? So I thought that was cool. Now the challenger and the coach are obviously focused on another person, encouraging another person. So the only one that's that we can look at within ourselves would be the creator role, which says I can do it, right? Going from a victim mentality to a mentality of stepping into your power because you understand things. Because wisdom truly is the principal thing. That's what I believe, right? Number one. All right, so stress, this is really interesting, okay? And you can Google this, and I encourage you to do this because I did. But stress and anxiety can literally be the whole difference in making us powerless or not because of its effects on the brain, okay? So peace is so crucial for a healthy mind, and the mind is everything, right? So yes. So if you're able to identify these unhealthy qualities, I just encourage you to try to break through any perceived limitations so that you can exit a toxic situation, okay? So a manipulator, again, is conscious. They're consciously playing these roles, and they also are intentionally stressing you out so that they can remain in power. Remember, stress kind of inhibits or prohibits the mind from functioning properly. That's where you get that frozen and the fawning and the where you're stumbling. You can't move forward. They want you locked up that way so they can remain in control, okay? So a manipulator is intentionally creating chaos, we talk about a lot, or you might say stressing you out to remain in power, okay? They don't want you to think for yourself, essentially, okay? And this is evidenced by the fruits of them always correcting you, patronizing you, and things of that nature, okay? So the truth is, we must actually choose peace, not as the end goal, which I certainly thought of it that way before, but as the foundation of a healthy life and lifestyle. So, because it's proven that our brains can't function properly, again, when they're not in a state of peace. So, if we realize we lacked healthy elders, not just elders, but healthy elders, right, in our upbringing, then at that point we must reparent ourselves by stepping into that parent role to create peace, even when the brain struggles to do so. This is where I'm thinking of the term compartmentalize. I don't feel like that's what we want to do. We just want to identify the mechanisms of the mind, and personifying them can help, right, to get that understanding part of wisdom. So I mentioned to you all before, I have a background in education, and there's a concept called the whole child concept. And it's depending on where you find the research on it, it can look differently and be explained differently. But back when I was getting my degree to teach, that was my area of focus. We were all encouraged to go into an area of focus with regards to education. So that's what I did, because again, my degree was to teach art, and I felt like there was a lot of freedom in teaching that subject, and I loved that. And so psychology is very closely tied in with art, right? And just all kind of different parts that make up a healthy human being. Your belief system, your your emotions. You can deal with emotions through art. There's art therapy, right, that help you process emotions and to help you process just all kind of stuff. So art was very expansive in that manner. So I thought that's a perfect complement for me to focus on the whole child approach to education, and that's what I did. And essentially what it means is, this is my lens as a teacher, you're so in tune to your students that you're looking at their well-being from every angle, and you understand that they're not going to do well in school academically unless they have a healthy foundation that includes they're physically safe and clean, they have a safe home, they have plenty of nutrition, good nutritious food, things like this. So there's this whole spectrum that you're looking at as a teacher, and I think teachers do this anyway, whether you want to label it at a whole child approach or not. I think a good teacher whose heart is really in it, they're going to do this, right? And they understand that very quick. If you don't have a lot of experience with kids, it's not going to take long in a teaching career to realize that kids are not going to be able to pay attention or remember anything or do well on tests or anything unless they have this healthy foundation. And so how could we define like the culmination, the end result of all these healthy aspects, right, of living? What would it bring to that child or any person? It would bring peace. It would bring peace, okay? It doesn't matter how much you try to motivate a child. They're not going to do well unless all of these other needs are met. It's like that hierarchy of needs. You have to have this foundation of all these different things that put the child in a peaceful state so that they're ready to learn and absorb, okay? So the difference now is, on our healing journey, on our path, the difference is that we are both that inner child or that wounded young adult or whatever it is oftentimes that needs help, and we're reparenting ourselves. So if you're personifying these aspects of yourself, there may still be that wounded inner child and the parent figure both within you. That takes a lot, but you can do it, okay? So it essentially just means dedicating yourself, being committed to a higher cause. View it this way, personify this too, because just imagine, right? Like if there was a separate child out here, like a little kid that needed you and like really bad, you'd find a way to make it happen. You know what I mean? That's empathy, that's love and action. So you're just going to turn that on yourself so that you can essentially self-motivate in that manner, okay? With peace being the goal as the foundation. You see what I'm saying? So what does this mean as our attempt to create peace? What does it mean? So when we're talking about creating peace as the foundation for then creating the life that you want, a healthy and fruitful life, it's kind of like just detailing it out and looking at it logically can really help, okay, to take the steps that we need. So what does it mean to create a healthy foundation? First of all, it means identifying healthy people to associate with and being secure enough to walk alone if you need to until you find those healthy people, okay? Not tolerating poor behavior, trusting yourself. It means identifying hobbies and things that bring you joy. Essentially, you're creating peace. Okay, so just ask yourself, what brings me peace? And just do more of that, right? And so once you've established some healthy and peaceful habits, right? And this is a very important part too of creating that foundation. And you're actively avoiding toxicity, right? That you can identify using the drama triangle, right? Then you're ready to create at that point, okay? So here's something kind of cool, a really interesting realization I had. Going back to the triangles, on the negative one, who is at the lowest point? The victim. But then when you look on the inverse, right, the right side up triangle, who is the highest? the Creator. So I want to take a look at Matthew chapter 12, verse 16. So the last shall be first, and the first last. For many are called, but few are chosen. So I hope that gives you some inspiration and encouragement to understand that even though you may truly have been a victim, you don't have to stay there in your mind. Now you have somewhat of a roadmap. It's going to look different for each one of us, but we understand what it's going to take to create a beautiful and peaceful life, right? It actually has to start with a foundation of peace. So just looking at what that means for you, understanding that you do have this power to create in this life. And so I hope that you are encouraged and inspired, and I thank you so much for coming along for the walk today, and I hope that you have a beautiful day. I'll see you again very soon.